여러분 안녕하십니까? 2021 제주포럼 디지털 전환시대 여성의 일과 포용적
Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin the 2021 Jeju Forum Gender session. Before beginning this session, we have very special guests. We have the spouse of Governor Won Hee-ryong. I will introduce her, Madam. She is a center for women health, and also she is the vice president of the Korea Mental Health. Could you say a few words? Nice to meet you. I'm spouse Won Hee-ryong. It is my great pleasure to be here in this meaningful event. In the post-COVID-19 era, actually COVID-19 has lasted for over 1.5 years, and we experienced a lot of changes, and the disaster affected people. However, there were some differences in degrees. In this post-COVID-19 era, digitalization is going to be accelerated. So under these circumstances, how women's life would change and how the gender gap would deepen, we will talk about. Actually, one of the main agenda is climate change and digital economy and gender equity in the G7 meeting. So about the gender equity, I think we have to consider how we could grow with males and how could we develop ourselves. We have the ambassador of Netherlands here. Thank you. Han Seon-hwa, Kim Jong-hyun, and Kim Jong-suk. We have here all very special guests. And also Min Moo-suk, and she is the president of the Jeju Women and Family Research Institute. So thank you for organizing this meaningful session. Thank you. From now on, the gender work and inclusive growth in the age of digital transformation will shortly begin. First of all, I'd like to introduce Min Moo-suk, president of the Jeju Women and Family Research Institute, for her opening remark. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm Min Moo-suk, president of the Jeju Women and Family Research Institute. In this digital transition, the inclusive growth and work of women and our institute and the Jeju government is co-hosting this session. During this session, we have participation in this in person in the studio, and also we have online participants. Welcome you all. Today's event, in the era of digitalization, the work environment has changed a lot. So we will think about the issues of women's work and what kind of preparation we have to make and what kind of changes we have to seek for. So we will come up with some solutions for those issues. As you know, digital transition has expanded because of the COVID-19, and also it brought changes in our lives as well. Contact-free communication was made possible, and it would bring some abundance in our economy, but it would widening the gaps between the rich and poor, and also it could lead to some precarious environment of work and labor market. And also women will be in a very disadvantaged status and situation. In this globalization, the key word of Jeju's forum is inclusive growth and sustainable prosperity. It refers to that we have to be involved in economic activities, and also we have to share the benefits from the economic development. So in line with those environmental changes, we have to think about responses and the roles of women, and also we have to think about the current status of women-led companies and corporations, and what to prepare also needs to be considered as well. Today, we have all the special guests in presentation and discussions. Thank you. We have Johanna Tonobart, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the Republic of Korea, and also we have Lucy Polacek, founder of CEO of She Codes. It is a company related to code. She is CEO and founder of the company. And also we have Lee Jae-yeol, professor of Seoul National University, Han Seon-hwa, senior research fellow of Korean Institute of KISIT. And also we have Kim Jong-suk, senior research fellow of Korean Women's Development Institute. And also we have Kim Jong-hyun, head of the Jeju Youth Job Center. Thank you for being here. Taking this opportunity, I hope we will seek for innovations in technologies, and also we would like to see the growth and the vision will be shared by many people. Thank you. Thank you for your remarks. Next, we have Im Hong-chul, Director of Division of Women, Family, and Adolescent of Jeju Government, for his greeting. And next, I'd like to introduce moderator of this session, Lee Jae-yeol. He is researched on the solutions for the current issues in Korean society, and he also always say that rather than grow materially, we have to heighten the dignity of society. He wrote, "Would you like to live in Korea if you were born in again? Sociology of economy, coming of platform society." Those are the books he wrote. Nurturing creativity is our the shortcut to open the future. And as a chairman of Social Science Archive of Korea, he is trying to enhance publicity. I will introduce him. Nice to meet you all. I'm Lee Jae-yeol. Especially today, the Jeju Women and Family and Research Institute organized this session, and we will discuss about the gender work and inclusive growth in the age of digital transformation. It's great pleasure to work as a moderator for this session. In this era, we have achieved economic growth and democratization, but there are many things make me frustrated, and also there are a lot of resentment among the public. And there are many issues, but it is not just something that we cannot serve these issues with democratization or economic development. Recently, since the COVID-19, there are some future that we have imagined are coming to us very faster. And with digitalization, the speed of changing has accelerated and really faster than ever before. So what direction we have to take, that is something that we have to think about today. So today, I think it is very meaningful time to have very special presenter, and we have very leading people here as a discussant. For the first presentation, we have Johanna Tonobart, Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to the Republic of Korea. Let me introduce her. She has been in Seoul since 2019, 2 years ago. She is a diplomacy representing Netherlands, female ambassador about the climate change and gender equity. She has very firm idea. And also she is the educational background about the planting, and so she is interested in sustainability. As you know, in Europe, inclusive society and inclusive growth has been made into policies for the first time around the world. So it is taking the lead in this era. Based on that experiences, I would like to ask her present her presentation. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor. Dear audience, thank you for inviting me here today to the 16th Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity to speak at today's session on gender, work and inclusive growth in the age of digital transformation. It's an honor to be invited by the Jeju Women and Family Research Institute as a keynote speaker on a topic close to my heart. A topic that has all the attention of my country, the Netherlands, and of the European Union. And a topic that has come more into the limelight because of COVID-19. So why is it important and why should we talk about it? Let me start off with some facts. In the European Union, there are 4 times more men than women who have completed ICT-related studies. And the share of men working in the digital sector is 3 times larger than the share of women. In the Netherlands, there are almost 3 times as many male tech graduates as female, and only 1 in 6 ICT specialists is a woman. It's estimated that 50% of women in tech roles leave them by the age of 35. It's quite shocking. The lack of participation of women in the workforce leads to serious loss in economic productivity worldwide. In Europe, it has been calculated that the annual productivity loss for women leaving their digital job to become inactive is about 16 billion euros. According to the IMF, closing this gap could increase GDP by an average of 35% worldwide. The COVID-19 crisis disproportionately impacts women in the workforce, as they are more likely to work in economic sectors and roles that are hardest hit by this crisis, but also because many of them had to take care of their children's education at home. The crisis led to an unprecedented shift to online learning and digital technologies, bringing convenience and economic prosperity, but it also amplified economic polarization among social groups. And it's clear that women face many barriers, resulting in a digital gender divide. The question is, how do we bridge this gap and leave no one behind? How do we ensure that women and girls participate fully in the digital economy and global network platforms? And equally important, how do we make use of the opportunities that digitalization offers regarding gender equality? In the next 10 minutes, I will try to find some answers to these questions. And as asked by the organizers, I will do so from a European Dutch perspective. So let me start with the first question, bridging the gap. To address the gender gap in the digital sectors, the European Union has launched several policy initiatives based on an extensive EU study, Women in the Digital Age. These policies target the digital gender divide itself, as well as addressing the underlying causes of the divide, such as gender stereotypes and education opportunities. And if we want to tackle the digital gender divide, policies that tackle the underlying causes are crucial. Let me mention some of the initiatives. The Digital Education Action Plan addresses the digital skills gap that forms from an early age, ensuring basic digital skills are taught to all children. The plan also addresses the gender gap in advanced digital skills, ensuring girls and young women are equally represented in digital studies and careers. The action plan aims to tackle one of the underlying causes of the digital gender divide, ensuring the gap will close for future generations by encouraging and enabling women to engage in technical studies. next is the EU Declaration of Commitment to Women in Digital. It targets both the causes and the symptoms of the digital gender divide. Signatories agreed to create national strategies encouraging women's participation in digital, ensuring each country can approach the issue with attention to the local needs. On the European level, the declaration encourages broadcasters to promote a positive public image of women in the digital sector, promoting role models for girls and young women, inspiring the next generation. The declaration also targets gender discrimination at work, advances gender-balanced composition of boards, and improves monitoring mechanisms and data collection. And one such data collection platform is the Women in Digital Scoreboard. The scoreboard assesses the situation for women in digital in member states of the European Union. It looks at women's inclusion in digital jobs, entrepreneurship and education. And it also allows countries to see where they have room to improve, where they should be focusing their initiatives. And that takes me to the second question that I posed earlier. How to ensure that women and girls participate fully in the digital economy and global network platforms? I would like to answer that by giving some examples of initiatives in Europe. The EU Declaration of Commitment to Women in Digital that I mentioned earlier established an EU-wide Girls in ICT Day. The goal of this day is to promote awareness about the issue, as well as to encourage and inspire girls to engage with the digital sector. In the Netherlands, we organize Girls' Day every year. Girls between the ages of 10 and 15 are invited to experience tech up close and to contact and connect with women working in the industry, having an example you can look up to. A mentor to guide you is so important to closing the gap. And this is also why the EU initiated No Women, No Panel, something we in the Netherlands strongly believe in. Particularly in a male-dominated fields, such as the digital sector, it's important to show gender diversity. As we've established, inspiration and role models are crucial. And it really gives me pleasure that this panel right now, it's indeed inclusive and diverse. Additionally, we have the European Network of Women in Digital, EWIT, and this is a platform aiming to connect women in digital fields, from students to teachers to panelists to managers to entrepreneurs. The EWIT platform allows you to search member individuals or companies by name, country or area of interest and provides a digital forum for members to communicate and discuss with one another. Particularly in the tech sector, where networks are lacking for women and girls, this provides opportunities. There are many other initiatives worth mentioning in the Netherlands, Europe, and I'm sure here in Korea as well. What these initiatives have in common is that they seek to connect women and girls so that they can build a network and break gender stereotypes, and promote women in digital as the norm rather than the exceptional. To give you an example of a program that tries to break gender stereotypes, I wanted to show you a video and of a program that in Dutch is called Beeldenbrekers. This program is geared towards children in elementary schools, tackling and aiming to break gender stereotypes in the technical fields. I guess it's the same here. Early on, technical professions are seen as male jobs, and Beeldenbrekers, or smashing the images, tries to break that stereotype. Let me just show you a little bit. Okay, we keep that black. It's a very nice program. I just explain a little bit because it apparently is difficult with showing the video. It's a program that elementary school, the teacher asks the children to draw, make drawings of a pilot or a fireman, typical jobs, male jobs perhaps. And the children start drawing and they have fun and okay, there's a cap and a helmet and then the teacher asks, okay, give it a name or give him or her a name. And they do. And then in the end, in the classroom, she asks, okay, wouldn't it be fun to invite them to our class? And the whole class says, yes, yes, let's have them. And then they walk in with a helmet and all that, and they take off the helmet, and they're all women. And then you should see the faces of those children. I mean, it's really smashing an image that they had in their head, a stereotype. It can be a woman as well. It could be you. So it's really something, these kind of programs really do a lot. And I advise you to look them up on YouTube or wherever. It's very, very nice to see the effect of that. And that brings me to the third and last question. How do we make use of the opportunities that digitalization offers regarding gender equality? Our biggest stumbling block in achieving gender equality might be gender stereotypes. We can tackle this by using digital to our advantage, including in the digital sector itself. Today, the age at which children in developed countries have access to internet is younger and younger. Social media can be used to empower and inspire those younger generations, to connect women and girls interested in digital across borders, to provide them much needed role models. And looking beyond Korean and Dutch borders, the answer is to promote accessibility and digital education. In many places in the world, women do not have access to the internet. And even if mobile internet in theory is accessible, social norms might prevent women from having access. Basic access to the internet and knowledge of digital technology, for example, how to use the internet, can really give a boost to women and girls to work on closing that gender divide. An opportunity not to be missed. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. The Republic of Korea and the Netherlands, celebrating this year 60 years of friendship. Both our countries, Korea and the Netherlands, celebrating this year 60 years of friendship, could work together to bridge the gender gap in the digital sectors. Both our countries are strong in innovation and high tech. Both our countries are home to big players in the semiconductor, like ASML and Samsung. And it seems to me that our countries could work together in setting the right example of inclusiveness, offering a secure environment for women and girls, work together in international fora to set international norms and standards to counter male bias and exclusion of women in technology. It's clear that the world needs women in the digital workforce. So let's work on closing the gender gap. Thank you. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Thank you for your presentation. Digital gender gap. In order to address this issue, how to change in terms of internalization, how do we have to promote networking among the women? And stereotype, how to change the stereotype and break from that, and how to use the technology to do that. And we listen to experiences of EU very well. And following that, we will have discussion. The first discussant is from Israel, and she is connected us with online. Luz Polatek, CEO of She Codes. As Ms. Min introduced, she is the CEO of She Codes. She founded the company, and at the same time, Tel Aviv-based Last Test was founded by her as well. So she is very busy, and she is Israel is reducing gender gap in a very aggressive manner, so she will discuss about it. Please, Luz Polatek.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I salute you for being putting front and center female entrepreneurship and gender diversity. Korea has always been forward-looking, and as in Israel, that we see a lot of innovation, and it's important that women are part of this change. And as mentioned, I have basically two main entrepreneurial ventures that focus on this. The main one being She Codes Focus, which is a social platform, which is an organization I founded in Israel. I'd like to share a little bit more about G-Codes and then tell you also about Lestes, my digital biotechnology venture. I am myself an entrepreneur, so in addition to being active in assisting other women to be focusing on code and software engineering, I myself, an entrepreneur, of also a software company. So let me share with you a little bit more about G-Codes and our activities. I started the organization almost 8 years ago as a way to meet other software engineers. And really, when you look at the numbers, we're over 50% of the population in Israel. And of course, in other places in the world, including Korea, the gap is still very big. The industry itself has 33% women. In academia, it's starting to increase. There are 27% women, and this is already a higher number than it was years ago, just several years ago. But there's still merely 22% women who are software developers. When we started the organization in Israel, it was closer to 14, 15%. So this is an increase, and we see a forward movement, but still we're far from where we want to be and where we can be. And that's what the organization focuses on. Our main goal is reaching 50% female software engineers in the tech industry and giving women the same opportunities and access to studying. And at the end of the day, it's all about making it happen. And we have many stakeholders and team members and people who are part of this change. The community itself has over 50,000 women across Israel, including all the major universities, actually all the universities in Israel, and some of the colleges, and all the major tech companies, and many more that are basically part of our community. Some of our events are hosted there. Now, of course, a lot of them are online, but with a strong participation of current software engineers in these companies as well that take part in our activities in mentoring and lecturing and assisting the team members across all the courses. And of course, if we talk about what we're doing, as I mentioned, we also have over 700 team members that take part of this in 50 different branches across the country. And every month we have over 200 events. And these are all professional events, such as Hack Nights, where the software engineers and women who are aspiring software engineers hack and code together, listen to lectures, or participate in coding hackathons and trackathons events. Our main principle, the first one, is believe in yourself, because if you understand that it's possible as a woman and as any person actually to achieve great things, whether it's in entrepreneurial or in software engineering. Sometimes it's very frustrating to work on a bug, and it's people who had some experience with code understand that the difficulty is mainly sometimes psychological, to really follow through and make sure that you work towards your goal. And that's the second principle, perseverance. You have to work hard and overcome obstacles and not let anything stand in your way, and continue on. And our community, which is the third principle, is basically a major part of it. And what we created is basically a way to support each other, both as team members, as most of them are volunteers, but also as this is the same as what happens in tech companies. Because at the end of the day, you have colleagues, you have basically team leaders, CTOs, and at the end of the day, you're never alone as a software engineer. Even though you work on your own and you have to understand and solve problems alone, you have to be part of the team. And that's something that our community basically strengthens. And this also encompasses the entire tech industry, as I mentioned before, that hosts us and supports us and has collaborates with us. So what we do is, in addition, as I mentioned, is just the networking that's part of the community and helps you with various parts of your career and strengthen your professional skills, which is our main focus. And then we have a career center, which helps you along the way, including courses and team members who are already working in tech companies and helping you. So some pictures, as I mentioned, various activities that are really tailored to each of the participants and what the focus that each one needs. Some people are more prone to listening to lectures, but the main focus is always workshops and hands-on training, because at the end of the day, you have to really feel it and you have to understand. As a software engineer, you're always learning. Even if you have 10, 20 years of experience, there are always new technologies coming out. You're always learning something new. And that's a major part of our events. Every event is learning and working together. And you see to the left, the two images are very typical of our events. Basically, each of the team member is sitting on her computer and working. However, she has everyone around her to work with. And that's what happens in the workforce. In the end of the day, you have your own project, but you're part of a team, and you must understand how to overcome challenges. And even if you feel like you have more challenges than others, and sometimes, especially sometimes, unfortunately, women feel that way, even though it's just society that makes us feel that way for all the wrong reasons. But still, if you feel that it might be more difficult for you to solve a certain bug, to learn a certain program, and someone else would do it in a shorter period of time, it doesn't matter, because if you persevere and work hard and don't give up, then even though it took you 2 weeks to learn something you would have expected or wanted to take 2 or 3 days, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the 2 weeks, you reach your goal and you manage to understand it. And anything is always, everything always seems difficult before you know it. And after you know it, you feel that it's simple. And we hear this time and again from our participants, and that's what we try to instill in them, the ability and the strength, the inner strength to continue on and to work hard. And the main focus is really professional. We have a varied amount of courses, and all from beginner, really entry level, through women who are already in the industry and want to advance in their careers, find new jobs, get promoted, get salary raises and so forth. So in order to do all that, the end of the day, it's always comes down to the professionalism and being really good at what you do. And if there are other skills such as cloud or having experience in building projects from A to Z, all of these things are really things that we allow and that we enable. But with the focus that all of them are self-learning. And the focus of self-learning is really that, to make sure that each participant can do that on their own and move forward. And for us, that's an important part, and we feel we see it with, as I mentioned, with thousands and thousands of members. And one of the things that we're very proud of is that after we've been around for several years, the Israeli government, namely the Ministry of Labor, has entered into a joint venture with us, which is now into its 4th year and have already been expanded twice. And this enables us to reach our goals, and the goals being really providing the most quality training that we can have. As I mentioned, over 10 courses in over 50 locations across the country. This is something that's a major focus of the Israeli industry, because the tech industry is a major part of the Israeli economy. Tech innovation is based on the tech workforce, and the workforce is one of the major challenges that the economy faces. And basically, we have to train and make sure that we have enough tech employees in order to support the growth of the tech industry. And the government sees this and has multiple programs and in order to support that. One of them is the joint venture with us. And basically a major success that we see is the understanding of that by the government that because, as I mentioned, there are approximately 20% instead of 50% female software engineers. In fact, the fact that there are thousands and thousands of open jobs, even though especially in these times, it's usually unheard of, and definitely with all the difficulties that world economies are facing, there's still open positions in the tech industry, thousands of them. And actually, it's estimated that there are 13,000 open positions for software engineers in the country. However, if we look at, and this is a small country, so it's all relative, but if we're looking at the tech industry and understanding that if women were 50% of the tech industry, not just of the industry as a whole, but specifically software engineering, we actually wouldn't have this problem of lack of software engineers because there would be almost twice as much software engineers, namely women. So the problem of missing software engineers is actually a problem of not having enough female software engineers, and having a massive training of a massive number of female software engineers is definitely a solution that also the government sees, and therefore we entered into the joint venture with them over 3 years ago and expanded it twice. One just as an expansion, and the second due to the coronavirus global pandemic actually expanded additionally because of the risk seen by the economy and wanting to make sure that more and more training is done. So the main two goals are training as many participants, both entry level and advanced, and basically placing them in tech positions and promoting in various key roles in the industry, in addition to younger girls joining the tech industry and choosing a career in software engineering early on in their careers when they choose their major in university and college. Now we can look at some of our success stories. As I mentioned, we have close to 5,000 women who graduated from these courses, and over 2,000 women who were placed in new positions. So this is a major part of literally close to literally, you can say the 5% of the placements in the country was of our graduates. So it's probably higher, but these are numbers that are hard numbers that were reviewed by the government and approved, that actually we recently also got approval for the third year completion of all the goals that were set. So we basically met the goals for the past 3 years. So this is something that for us is really important for the future, and to make sure that we have more and more women, both as software engineers and as entrepreneurs. And I can say myself as an entrepreneur, I've built a company which focuses, in addition to SheCode, focuses on less tests, which was mentioned in the introduction, that focuses on taking biotechnology and understanding innovation and improving specifically testing for coronavirus through pooling, combinatorial pooling, using algorithms to have testing done much more quickly and much more efficiently. And this is something that for me, in the wake of the virus, wanting to help out, and we're part of a national project of the Ministry of Health in Israel. And we've received regulatory approval much quicker than it would have been in a regular year. And we see that the tech industry, myself and my team members and partners including the Neopharm Group, which is a leading medical device company in Israel. Basically, we've basically joined forces with the tech industry and the health industry, and also the government through the joint project that we have there, and as well the Israel Innovation Authority, which supports us, basically all leads towards additional growth. And we feel that we have support of so many people in Israel, specifically as a company, and also in She-Codes and all of our endeavors. And we're really excited to continue on and grow. And I thank you for inviting me. And I think that this forum has a similar goal and shared goals, and I'm sure it will make a change. And I salute you and good luck to us all.
Thank you for your presentation. You are connected very far away in Israel, and she introduced the digital strength, like ability strengthening cases of Israel women were introduced. I would not repeat her presentation, but I will focus on that will summary the two major things. Very closely connected and collective efforts was made, and more than 500 volunteers created some organizations called She-Code, and they were trained, and they were like mentored, and they are providing mentors. And also, in order to heighten the impact, it put efforts connect with organizations, other organizations and government and agencies to make sure more women to get a job. And you are making the chances and opportunities is very vivid case and examples, I think. And next, I will introduce Korean discussants. Hansan-hwa. I will ask her to present. I will introduce her briefly. She has worked for KISTI since 1999 for a long time. As a female science, she has taken very important and leading role in science. In KISTI, she was working as head of Information Technology Development Group and head of the Advanced Information Research Institute, and also she worked as the president of the KISTI, and also she served as the policy director of the National Research Council of Science and Technology, and also she played a leading role in NGOs such as Vice President of Korea Women Scientists and Engineers Association, co-chair of the Citizens Coalition for Scientific Society. At the forefront, she has been committed to making sure whether inclusive growth is possible, and she put a lot of efforts in it. Please. Nice to meet you all. I'm Hansan-hwa. Thank you for inviting me today. For a very successful digital transition, what kind of role needs to be taken by women and what to prepare by women? Digital transition, this is something that we talk a lot these days. It's different from digitalization a little bit. In our society, if it is digitalized, and necessarily there is a lot of data created, and they are collected and become a big data, and it be returned to the society. That is the process of digital transition. Digital data, AI, big data, these are the fundamental elements of digital transition. In this digital transition, there is a big changes in job markets. Automation is increasing and AI will replace people's job. And Boston Consulting Group suggested in the US by 2030, computing and science, there will be a lack of 1.6 million talents in those sectors. That is kind of global trend. And about the Deloitte Consulting Group, the world is hit by the COVID-19 and it is very struggling. And in the post-COVID-19 era, what kind of changes we would face? They presented about four scenarios. And whatever the scenarios are, anyway, digitalization is going to be accelerated, and whether it's individual and organizational government, if they fail to adapt to the changes, they will fall behind. That is the common thing in any scenarios and researches. As Ambassador presented, that is the first page of Ambassador's presentation. And Europe is taking the lead in digitalization, and it is implementing some initiatives if women get a job in digital related work and sector, and it would increase 116 billion euros increase in terms of GDP, and EU is researching on this. In order to encourage women's job in IT, we have to break through the stereotype of digital gender, and also we have to train women in terms of technology and IT, and also we have to nurture more women entrepreneurs. And this is some interesting statistics and how prominent women are in digital sector. That is represented by WID index. And separate from that, in European countries, how much competitive they are having in terms of digitalization. The blue is WID index, and the bottom one is the ESI. The trend looks very similar, and except one or the top and the level is similar. It means that the nation in where women adapt to digitalization, they could win in the digitalization era. That is the evidence. But in Europe, there is still gender gap remaining. If this were represented and assessed by 12 sectors, and so anyway, gender gap is existing in European countries. 34% of graduates are women in STEM graduates, and only 18% of women are in specialized ICT specialization. And even though she got some specialization, she would less paid than men. And gender gap is worsening in some sector. The gender gap is growing if we look at the higher technology sector. It was presented by Joanna's talks, and Europe Digital Day is on April 9th, 2019, and 28 head of states combined to sign on some agreement. And this Girls and Women Digital Day was celebrated on the same day and by European countries, and they set some common goals, and in private and public sector they work together to figure out the problems. And ICT companies not only recruiting women's but also women's to make sure women to be promoted to kind of executive level. Then declaration on inclusive company culture is created. And in a very important position, women need to be included. So some campaign is being held. Because of, in terms of digitalization and AI ushered us into the fourth industrialization, it requires fourth C in fourth industrialization. The first one is coaching, and the second one is caring, and the third one is connecting. Connecting is very important. It is not just connecting man and man. Connecting in fourth industrialization is connecting between man and machine, or physical and virtual. That is the very one of important 3 C's. And Boston Consulting Group suggested that
the requirements for countries, companies, and individuals in the era of the fourth industrial revolution, lifelong learning and upskilling and reskilling were mentioned as the essential elements for countries, companies, and people. What you learned from universities is not everything you can use for your lifetime. You need to continue upskilling and reskilling yourself, not to lag behind in the new market. So what do we need to prepare? One thing would be digital literacy. If you don't know how to read, then you are not a civilized person. So in this new era, if you don't have digital literacy, it's like you don't understand what's written in digital context. In the World Economic Forum, HR managers, CEOs, and high-level managers were asked a question about what they think are the obstacles to gender equality. And the obstacles are categorized into social, systematic issues and issue of supply and demand of women workforce. When we overcome digital gender gap, what kind of issues do we need to consider and solve? First of all, we have social and cultural problems. We need to show to the society that women are tailored to become the digital leaders and they are good at digital skills. In today's society, there are many women leaders in the digital, and we need to equip those women leaders with digital skills. We need to provide digital education, and we need to have digital, for example, secretary to help women leaders enhance their digital capacities. Secondly, we need to increase the proportion of women leaders in digital sector so that we can solve social and cultural problems. And secondly, we have system or institutional issues. Due to COVID-19, many people around myself are working at home. And what does work and life balance mean to women? We need to have a deeper look into what work and life balance means to women. When men work at home, they can work at home and they can enjoy hobby activities. But according to many researchers, when women are asked to work at home, they are embarrassed because before, when she works at company, her mother-in-law, for example, cared for her children. But if she has to work at home, she has to set the table for her mother-in-law. So in this digital environment, at home work environment, we need to consider the work and life balance for women. And we need to make active requirements for the work and life balance for women. And thirdly, the supply and demand issues of women workforce. Just like the examples you saw from Chico's, and also there have been many trials and activities done in the Netherlands. Those could be example of providing digital education for middle school and elementary school student girls and making them feel more familiar to digital skills. And if we say scientist, then many of them say the scientist includes Marie Curie, but Madame Marie Curie is a person that is very difficult to achieve as role model. So we need to provide the good role models, feasible role models to the student girls. And we need to provide reskilling in terms of digital capacity. We need to train and enhance the digital skills of women. For now, this is not the time to just do the discussion, but it's time to take action. REACT here was mentioned in the World Wide Web Forum. What do we need to do for closing the digital gender gap? So in order to achieve gender equality in the era of digital skills, what do we need to do? The first thing to achieve is the rights. We need to provide women with the proper rights to participate in the digital sector in a safe environment. And second, education for women. And thirdly, accessibility. Digital service or internet are not easily accessed by women due to some costs and expenses or hurdles. In this regard, we need to improve accessibility of women to the internet and digital services. The third element is content. Especially in the third countries, a lot of content is written in English, and people who don't know English cannot really access and understand the digital content. So countries need to create the digital content in their own local language. And how are we going to set targets and continuously monitor the progress? We need to set clear targets. So REACT stands for this rights, education, access, content, and targets. And we need to engage every woman in this effort. And if we don't have engagement of women, we cannot fill up the lack of demand for the digital workforce. And for the survival and further economic growth of nations, we need growth of women. And to achieve this, we need to take action now. I am given only 10 minutes, so I'm going to skip the other slides. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Han Sun-hwa. You talk about your experiences, and digital acceptance is increasing in digitalization, and women's competitiveness is going to heighten as well. It's very important. And why? How? Like, there are too many obstacles, and she explained the 3 points, and the institutionalization and how to change them, and education, how to change it. And she was talking very clearly. And next, we have 2 more discussants, but we are running out of time. So I think you need to keep your time. And we have people in this studio, and we have online participants. If you ask questions on chatting function, then we could figure out how to answer those questions. And next, I will introduce Kim Jong-suk, Senior Research Fellow of Korea Women's Development Institute. She got PhD in family economics, and she has been researched various policies. And for those the women who experience of job disruption, she researched it, and she served as the secretary of the President of Women and Family Affairs, and also she was a board member. She is a board member of Korea Minimum Wage Council, and currently she's leading Korean Women Economists Association. Hello. There were many good talks before, and I will talk about the entrepreneurs led by women. The role of female-led company is very important in heightening in promoting inclusive growth. In developing countries, women's startup would prevent people suffering from poverty, and also it could contribute to growth of national economy, and also it would heighten the levels of life quality. And today I prepared this based on this content, and also I will cite some international material to look at the current status of female-led companies and what kind of issues female company is facing, and also what is the solutions for the challenge to those challenges. And Global Entrepreneurship Monitor released data recently, and based on that, women, like less women tend to start up than like men. However, continuously, the startup by female is increasing gradually, but there are some differences by region. But women in all like young age has higher proportion of startup, and also globally, the gender gap is reducing in terms of the academic background of females, and in terms of willingness for business, like, there is some changes, and also women are likely to start a business by herself, and by each sectors there are some differences as well. Male tend to create and start up businesses in high value-added sectors, and women tend to start up business in low value-added sectors. And 4.9% of startup by men is in ICT. And in terms of investments, the sum and are really different between men and women. In Korea, I will introduce the current status of Korea. Women account for 39% of leaders who start up business, and 24% of new businesses were founded by women, and they are concentrated on low value-added industries. For example, accommodations, restaurants, and wholesale and retailers. Over the last 20 years, the rate of startup in retailers decreased a lot these days. But anyway, women-led entrepreneurs are more likely to focus on retailers. And we call small and medium-sized companies if it has less than 5 employees. And so most of female-led entrepreneurs are small and medium-sized. And the survival years is shorter for women-led startups than male-led startups. The biggest issue these days is IT-based companies and how to make a transition towards technology. And when we analyze the data, only 2% of venture companies were founded by female, and also the size of the company is very small, and female-led companies are covering various kinds of IT technologies, but female-led venture companies are focusing on design-oriented companies, so they have less intellectual property assets. And the problems the female-led companies are facing is that actually in these days, many companies are in a very struggling in a very fast changing society. And overall industries, there are 9 driving technologies. In these circumstances, to survive, female companies need to work very hard, but in Korean society, it's very difficult for them to work. In 2018, some manufacturing companies, intellectual property-based companies, on those companies, I asked how they respond to the 4th industrialization. There are too many contents, so I cannot explain all today. I will briefly explain. We researched 213 companies, and only 14% companies were covering high technologies, and 38% of companies are having medium technologies. And when I asked whether they prepare for the 4th industrialization, they said that they are not prepared yet, and you can see on the graph as well. And for those who haven't prepared for the 4th industrialization, they said that they need to prepare for it, but very difficult to prepare it in this current circumstances. And also, they were supported by the companies, but they haven't received any support in terms of technology by the government. This is the OECD data in terms of the inclusive growth of Korea. The survivor rate is very low among startups in Korea, so they have to enhance efficiency, and it's very difficult circumstances for female-led companies as well. So supporting for women is very important in promoting inclusive growth. The issue here is that the policy for growth and survival of startup is very based on the past policies. It was established in 1990, and the government has put efforts in promoting female-led companies. However, they failed to support the female-led startups in earnest. And each companies, this is just an example, not only revenues, but also technologies and workforces needs to be customized. As other presenter and discussant said, how appropriate supports will be provided for the companies, and how to strengthen network among female-led companies, and how to share technologies, and how to exchange feedback. Those things needs to be exchanged in a system. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your discussion. Dr. Kim Jong-soo especially mentioned the aspect that we feel a lot of difficulties when women start up their own business. They face a lot of challenges in our society. And when women with great capabilities start up a business and grow as entrepreneurs, they face a lot of challenges. While teaching students at schools, I saw excellent female students showing great academic performance and also great performance in terms of getting professional certificates, but they are about to face a lot of challenges when they actually are graduate from schools and go out to the society, pursue their career. Next presenter may give us an answer to this issue. The head of Center of Jeju Youth Job Center, Mr. Kim Jong-hyun, is the next panelist. Mr. Kim Jong-hyun is now doing activities that are meaningful for supporting the youth. He has created the Jeju Youth Job Center, and so far he has worked in the industries of internet business planning. And in 2009, He planned and executed Daum and Nexon Group's relocation to Jeju. And in 2015, he founded the social enterprise as well. Now he's the head of Jeju Youth Job Center. Today's topic is very difficult one. And in order to achieve gender balance, we have a lot of challenges. And we're talking about digital transition. This is not just technological transition, but a lot of changes are occurring in our lives. And in response to the change, we need to come up with different type of employment policies and strategies. Today, I'm going to show you the big picture about this topic, and I'm going to share with you several examples of women employment strategies. Although I'm not an expert in this area, I updated my slides, but the slides you see here are not really updated. I'm going to introduce to you about our Jeju Youth Job Center. It is an institution created to solve the employment or job problems of the youth. We select 150 young people every year and provide them with education and training and support their efforts to get a job for about 2 years. And while they pursue their career and while they make efforts to get a job, we provide them with some basic income of about 1.5 million Korean won. So far, we have selected 250 young people and provided them with support for getting decent job. In the Fourth Industrial Revolution Commission, we have talked about the jobs market and changes in the employment. So digital transformation includes the digital transition, energy transition, and healthcare transition, and the speed of transition is getting faster. Traditional industries are being digitalized, not only IT industries, but also agriculture industries. The agricultural businesses are also digitalized because they're doing the marketing activities and selling agricultural products through the internet. Platform economy is also another change in the digital transition, and people's lifestyle is being changed. So their hours of labor has reduced and our daily life has been significantly changed. Consumption industry is on the rise, and so innovation is getting faster. So first of all, in the previous years, innovators were created and then early adopters appeared. So in the past, in the era of manufacturing industry, for example, the Ford, the automobile company, produced the car for the first time in the US, and it has 100 years of history. In the past, in the era of manufacturing industry, the innovation cycle was for about 100 years, but in the era of the internet, innovation cycle is about 10 years. And this change is having influence on the change of employment or jobs. In the past, we had standard employment relationship. People were employed for full-time and lifetime workplace concept existed. But nowadays, the labor is fizzled and more part-time jobs or non-regular jobs have increased. And the melting labor is a new trend we see in the employment sector. So due to these changes, the existing systems of employment has changed. In the past, we thought that if we educate people until college, then they will be able to get lifetime workplace or lifelong job. And then our policies were focused on supporting vulnerable groups like women and elderly people. And all social safety net was based on employment. So Korea provided 4 national insurances to people, including the unemployment insurance. But these days, the concept of lifelong job or lifelong workplace have disappeared. So people frequently move from one job to another. And when we nurture talent, it should be based on lifelong education. and employment sector is rapidly changing. So the employment policies and job-related policies need to consider all types of employment all types of employment, and the job security system needs to be prepared in a universal way. So the policies need to consider not only the unemployment problems, but also other areas as well. And change management capacity is an important skill in the new era. Especially women may have great capabilities in responding to change. And digital literacy is an area where we can see gender gap. To solve these problems, we need to make a change in education and in employment policy. Education has changed a lot. We see new educational methodologies coming up. So there are many educational foundation and project-based learning opportunities exist. And in terms of lifelong learning, there are not only regular education, but also many diverse education to support lifelong learning of people. And we need to prepare the relevant social systems and social safety net. In the past, it was easy for a person to receive regular education and pursue career in the society, but that's not the case in these days. So we need to expand the education not only for job seekers, but also for career interrupted people. As such, social safety net should be changed. And accordingly, the governance structure should be changed. For example, policies need to be performed driven by the local community. And also we need to have coordination among diverse, multiple stakeholders. In terms of the gender issue, there are many changes we need to consider as well.
In terms of females, I will talk about the women's jobs. In terms of soft skill, the women's job is going to increase, but still there is the digital and technology gaps. And also in kind of precarious job, like employment status, women is very vulnerable. Like women have to bear children and take care of children, so they are struggling in balancing between job and like work. And the corporate culture need to help women balance between the work and like housing. And also the company need to train women, enhance their capabilities and skills. And for those who are suffering from the off period in terms of job, they have to be guaranteed about incomes or training. And also we need some universal approaches. And some education is required for many people. So also there is some policies needed to be focused only on women. And also it needs to improve some, like for example, we could increase and enhance the support for women. The Jeju Youth Job Center, women account for about 64.7%. So we have less male. So we said that we could do as well. And also women in job disruption needs to be supported. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Kim Jong-hyun, head of Jeju Youth Job Center, he covered very collective issues in this era. Many problems of women, how to solve those problems, he proposed. And if you have any question, if you want to ask a question, please raise up your hand. As time goes really fast, I think we need to wrap up today's session. We have 5 participants here, like presenters and discussants. As Kim Jong-hyun said, it is very great tradition commented by Karl Polan. In 17th and 18th century, the market economy was adopted and the word ushered into a very new world. So the capitalism, company, the social network system, and those were created at in that area. And now we are experiencing very great transition. Our society is going to platform society, someone say, and with only one smartphone, we could do everything from communication and selling and buying something. We are saying that it's kind of new humanity. And this is a new great transition. On the other hand, but there is existing very old challenges that we have to include women in our society. These 2 challenges. And do we figure out these problems with a very innovative manner? We have to consider the 2. I want to know about the conclusion. And in Newsweek, I've read an article from Newsweek. The children, if were born in 2015, they will live about 150 years. And how to teach them and how to live, that would be another issue. And for the young women, how do we make them prepared for the future to live very long life? And learning very specific technology is very important. However, what is important is to how to learn those technologies. And digital literacy is also important. And also, not alone, but also we have to work together. We have to discuss together. We have to create community. And also we have to get various link and bridge, and we have to connect with public companies, and we have to raise up our voices working with others. If we solve the problem in that way, I think even though we have improved a lot, but we have to do more in terms of inclusive growth with women. And I think in the future, the men needs to be cared. So, and the development and growth of women will be very helpful for the development of nation. That's what I want. For a long time, you presented and discussed a lot, introduced very good examples in Europe. Thank you for your introduction. And your lifelong work, you shared your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, moderator, presenter, discussants, please give them a big round of applause. After having a few minutes of break, we will have the Africa's digital innovation in post-COVID-19 era will shortly begin.